Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to the Voices of Boyle podcast. Today we've got Callum Robertson as our guest, sharing his journey through pandemic challenges during his college days and his passion for theatre and film. From growing up in Boyle to working in Valencia in Spain, we get the scoop on his adventures, inspirations, and thoughts on the future of creativity in the acting world. It's an interesting episode, so let's get started. Callum, you're very, very welcome to the Voices of Boyle.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you here. So, Callum, we're going to talk about a few different things in this episode, mainly your acting career, and you've done a course in performing arts down in Sligo. We'll get into that. Mm-hmm. But maybe to start things off, I'd like to get, as someone in your 20s, you have a unique experience on Boyle that reflects the younger generation's view. What do you think are some of the best things about Boyle, and what are the areas where you feel the town could improve? Because I'd like to hear both the positive aspects and the challenges you see from your perspective.
Well, I think definitely I do a lot of traveling around and stuff, and I'm up in Sligo quite often and coming down on the train a lot. I think one of the best things about Boyle, especially for my friends that come in or people that are traveling through or things like that, is that it's a really, really pretty little town. It's nice when the weather allows. And there's a lot of history in the town that I think a lot of people don't immediately see. There's the Abbey and all these amazing ruins, and there's so much art in Boyle, and cute little coffee shops and things like that, and there's the bridge and all of these little landmarks around the place, the Crescent, that just make it such a cute little Irish town.
Rural Irish town.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then where do you think then the challenges? Because I always like to get different perspectives on things. So from the younger generation's point of view, Boyle looks very pretty, as you said, has a load of history. What areas of the town then do you think could we improve on?
Well, I think a big thing with it right now, and again, for my friends that are coming down and being like, oh, look at this cute, pretty little town, there's nowhere to really stay. I know there's that wonderful Harry Potter house, B&B, that Connor Hamill runs. There's a few other small places in town, but there's not like, a hotel. There's not like many places that you can point to and be like, oh yeah, if you're coming through Boyle, drop in there and stay. And I think it makes it hard to keep some people here for a bit. Maybe that's a silly thing to say. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the fact we do have obviously a lot of Airbnbs pebble dashed around the town, but as you said, it doesn't feel like there's one location you can say to someone, yeah, just go and stay there.
Yeah.
So that would be, in your kind of opinion, one of them. I think it's a lot of people's, obviously.
Right.
Right. And Callum, what would you like to see happen on Boyle to make it a more vibrant place for the younger generation?
I think that making it a more vibrant place for a younger generation, I think that the arts is definitely one of the strongest things about our town. And we already do so much for that down in the markets or in St. Joseph's Hall with the shows that are put on and the arts festival and everything like that. I would love to see more young people coming into that kind of environment. How specifically to market to that kind of thing, I'm not sure. But I love seeing new people engaging with that kind of thing. I remember when I saw Hunchback a few years ago, the lead in that was amazing, and when I saw him I was like, who is this? I can come out of nowhere. And I love the people that are regularly there. Obviously they're regularly there for a reason, but seeing new talent and new faces, new voices engaging with that kind of thing, I think is good for the whole town. I think it brings in so many new people, and just continuing on and on and on to expand that core domain of our town, I guess. I think is a really fantastic idea. Also, places for people to stay when they come to see these shows would be nice.
Of course.
But
is that the Hunchback of Notre Dame? When was that on? Was that? I think it was. I can't remember. Was that 2 or 3 years ago? I'm not.
God,
I don't. It probably wasn't
frazzled with these.
Yeah, it probably wasn't 3 years ago with COVID and all that. Okay, so I'm going to get on about maybe your experiences during COVID, but before that, do you have any favorite memories of your time growing up in Boyle as a young fella? You are 24 now.
24, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So back. Do you have any specific memory that stands out as a young fella growing up in Boyle?
I always remember when I was quite young, maybe I was 7 or 8 or something, going out to Lough, and there's a specific tree out there that probably anyone that's gone out there when they were a kid knows about, that we would just call the big tree. And there's
a few of them.
There's a few big trees out in Lough, yeah. But our favorite one we called the big tree, and you could walk inside of it. Like the leaves and the branches came down, and it was like a house you could go into.
Oh yeah, everyone. Yeah, I think
exactly,
I know the one
exactly. And there's a specific type of branch that's like a loop that you can sit on, and we would get lifted up on top of that and swing. And I don't know. I always got very excited when we got to go hang out in the big tree, and climb 3 foot off the ground, but feel like we were 20.
Big adventure.
Exactly.
And so I wanted to. Because you're 24, COVID would have happened bang on when you were around 20.
Around about, yeah.
So what impact did COVID have on you personally? If you can bring us back to those days.
Yeah. When that happened, I was in college in Sligo, in the IT at the time, ATU now. And you can imagine doing a performing arts course, so like acting on a Zoom call, is kind of soul destroying, you know. It's not even like acting to a camera. It's just it's distant and disconnected, and it was a struggle in that respect. And of course, there's like this huge loss of time. Like when I think back to that time, it's just a big blur. It's a big gap in my memory almost, and it's crazy. I was very lucky though in my situation when I was living over there at the time. I was actually in a house with 6 other people, and they were all in my course. So I was living in a house with my best friend, my other best friend, my girlfriend, a fantastic friend of mine, and her sister. I can't count. I don't know how many that is, but I wasn't lonely, you know, in a way that I feel like a lot of people that I've talked to definitely were. And that time, I think, especially turned into a blur because you sit and you watch YouTube and you play video games, or you just waste away the time. And the most exciting thing in the day would be popping out to go to the shop with my mask on and grabbing it and coming straight back. So I was lucky that I got to have that environment around me still, and I got to still interact with people to some degree during that time. But God, yeah, it was a strange one.
Did it scare you that the world could have gone to the place we did during that time period? And especially then when the lockdowns came, where we couldn't go 5 kilometers, we couldn't go 20 kilometers, you couldn't potentially go visit your family, again, luckily my generation, we never went through anything like that. So that's why I'm interested in the younger generation's COVID experience. Was it scary?
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah. I think looking back on it, I think one of the scariest things about it is that actually at first it wasn't, because for ages it's like, oh, there's this thing going around. A couple of people are getting sick. Oh, but it's fine. Oh, a lot of people are getting sick. Oh, some people are dying from this. Oh, someone I know from the next town over got this. Someone they know died. What if my grandparents get this? What if I get it and I'm near someone? And then just the progression of that, the evolution of that, like paranoia and fear about it. Yeah, it was very scary, I think. Yeah, definitely.
And as you said, you were in a lucky scenario in that you weren't isolated on your own. You weren't living in a house, maybe just even one other. You had a tightly knit group of people.
Yeah.
So you were one of the lucky ones in that respect. Did you know people, friends that weren't so lucky? That you were, because obviously you would have been all texting and snapping or whatever.
Yeah.
So was someone not as lucky as you that you can remember that, they had nowhere to go? Maybe they had an immediate friend circle that they could hang out with in the house. You knew someone like that?
Yeah. One of my friends, Cormac, he was in college as well at the time. I'm blanking on where, but he was in college and he was just on his own the whole time. I don't remember exactly his living situation, but he literally didn't have anyone for that whole time. He would leave again to go to the shop. He would come back and sit on his computer and do assignments just completely on your own. And for that crazy amount of time, I think it really, took a toll on him. Definitely.
And while you said that you didn't feel like it affected you as badly as even your friend Cormac did, did you feel at any time isolated, even though you were surrounded by people? You were isolated from the outside world.
That's a good point that you bring up. I say because I was very lucky. I like to acknowledge that, but you're right that even with that like safe environment and group around me, still that kind of fatigue comes, because I love these people more than anyone in the world, but that kind of mundanity sounds mean, but I sleep in the morning, or I roll out of bed to turn on my laptop to do my online acting college course that are destroying my will to live. Then we all go downstairs and we have a coffee on our break. Then we go back up, we do our classes, we come back down, we sit in the sitting room for the rest of the day, and then we go to bed. And that day after day after day after day, maybe go to the shop, fighting over who gets to go to the shop. That definitely did wear on me, and the rest of them as well, without a doubt. So
it actually, listening to you describe that, in my head, it actually sounds like almost a form of prison. In what you said. Now, obviously, it wasn't, but it has that kind of association with me in my head of the mundane task that you do every day.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, your creativity was stumped because you were getting up and going on Zoom to do something that you were doing in person.
Yeah.
And of course, a big part of college life, whether in all faculties, is social life. So you didn't have that for a couple of years, especially the main kind of years of your college experience.
Yeah.
That, regardless of what anyone says, that has to take an effect, because there's a couple of years there, 2 years anyway, where people didn't know what was going on. You couldn't go out socializing, going out to the pub, nightclubs, all that was taken away. Do you think that has affected you in some way? Because you might say it hasn't, but it has to have. And if it didn't affect you, it probably affected maybe someone else in your circle.
Right. I think for a long time afterwards, it definitely did affect my ability to socialize. Talking to people strangely, or a lot of people talk about when everybody was wearing the masks, you would only smile with your eyes. So for the first time, when we took off the masks, everybody had forgotten how to smile. And things like going to the pub and stuff like that felt odd. And now that I'm thinking about it just now, my anxiety, I feel like, definitely has gotten a lot worse since then. I'm not sure exactly what the explanation for that is, but I feel like it's definitely because of that. And some kind of social anxiety because of the disconnect that we had during that time has definitely affected me, I think.
We know the negatives that have been associated with the lockdowns and that, but do you think there's, I mean, I don't know of any positives, but again, I'd like to ask you that. Do you think any positives came about from maybe being... Did your friendships become stronger with those you lived with as a result? Because if they did, well, then that's a positive regardless.
Yeah. I don't have another group of friends that I am closer with than those 6 people that I was trapped in that house with for that time. I think definitely, yeah. One of my best friends, Thomas, literally every day we were next to each other on the couch hanging out.
Yeah.
And even if sometimes almost a whole day could go by with us not talking to each other, but we, I guess, developed a kind of comfort in that silence where we didn't have to just speak to each other all the time, and just a kind of ease and rest that came with being with those friends, I think, developed because of all that extremely close interaction.
And what lessons do you feel people in your age group learned from the COVID era, if any? Is there anything that you can maybe look back on and say, well, I learned something from this?
Well, I don't know if they're... I think people are more clean. I think people think about washing their hands a little bit more, which is good. As for positive lessons, I guess I'm more grateful for the freedoms that I have, and I think other people are too. Being able to go out to clubs and nightclubs and concerts and stuff like that were just a complete non-option at the time, and learning to have a kind of gratitude about that thing. And
during the middle of it,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
and the whole thing was like when we were in really stringent lockdowns.
Mm.
Did you have a time frame in your head where you thought this was going to end, or did you think we could be in this for, years and years to come?
Well, yeah, I mean, you see so many different opinions online, and when we were in that situation, we were only ever online all the time. It got easier to convince ourselves that the world was ending. We made enough jokes about it that eventually some part of our brain kind of started to believe it. Hearing from one place that it's dying down and it's fine and it's whatever, and hearing from another place that it's getting worse and crazy things are happening all over the world to do with it, it was very difficult to parse for a while what was going on. Eventually, we kind of learned where we should be looking and whatnot. But that feeling of the world is ending was very prevalent for a while.
And because of the fact of the nature of your course, it needed to be in person.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like you were studying something online.
No.
But so that must have felt a little scary to think like, okay, I picked the wrong time to do performing art.
My God, yeah, honestly, and it affected the rest of even when things died down a little bit. The rest of the course was a bit difficult to do certain things with. We were meant to go abroad for job experience and work stuff in like an actual professional field, but obviously with the complications that arose, we weren't able to do that. And it made it trickier later on.
Yeah.
You just can't do that kind of work online. You can't. We definitely tried. But the best that we could do in that situation was, I remember a few times we would be in an acting class and maybe we're doing scenes, and it was horrible. The best bit of that was calling my friend Thomas to come downstairs from his bedroom and stand in my bedroom in front of our webcam, and both of us doing the scene to each other in our room in front of the tiny little screen. And every couple of seconds, we're like flicking our eyes back to the screen to check that we're on it. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. But,
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And my final question on
Mhm.
COVID, I promise,
Mhm.
is after living through such a transformative period at a young age, Callum,
Mm.
has your outlook on the future changed in any way?
I guess it drove my motivation after the fact. It drove my motivation to really try to drive myself through the field that I'm in. The work that I do, that I try to do, sometimes you're lucky and things will just land in your lap. But it takes a lot of putting yourself out there. And I think after so long of not being able to do that and not having that option, it gave me a kind of hunger for it, you know? So now I try to do everything I can to pursue the work that I love. And it made me realize that I love it by showing me the absolute worst version of it that I never want it to be again. It's given me a different kind of drive to pursue my field and pursue my work, I think.
That's great. It's always good to get a perspective, especially a younger generation's perspective, because as I said to you before we started this era of COVID in years to come will be looked back on, and it's great to have people's accounts from it. So that's why I kind of wanted to really kind of do a little bit of a deep dive in this episode with you.
Yeah.
But anyway, we get away from COVID for now.
Okay.
As you've mentioned a few times, you were in Sligo and you were what made you what inspired you to pursue a career in performing arts?
Well, the first kind of experience I ever had with any sort of performing arts, what introduced me to the fact that this is a world that exists, was I must have been 13, I think, 12, 13, in secondary school. And yeah, I was in secondary school. I was about 13, first year. A man named Frank O'Mahony came in to work with us, and he became a very, very important figure in my life. I have a lot of respect for that man. I remember we were doing Oliver Twist. That's what it was, musical, because the school does a musical every 2 years, or it did at the time when I was there. And me and a bunch of other boys were brought in and sat in one of the spare rooms, and Frank came in and he gave us all a script. And I don't remember specifically what the scene was, but it was some big angry man screaming at Oliver, and Oliver's running and trying to get away, and something like that. And maybe 7 other boys next to me ran through their lines, and they were mumbling, and they were like this, and they didn't want to be here, and I didn't want to be here. But at the time, I was a clown and wanted attention, so I was like, I'll be funny and scream my bloody head off reading these lines. That'll be, everybody will think that's so funny, and then I'll leave. But I did that, and Frank was like, right, you're gonna do this. And I was like, what I am? So I didn't really want to at the time, but after that, he was like, great, you can project, and you've got that in you. I'm gonna make you do that again on the stage. And then I was in it. I didn't have like a huge role or anything. I played 2 different minor characters, and after doing it, after the rehearsals and stuff, and getting up on the stage, and the view of just that rectangle that you look out on, and you see all of the pews and the seats, and you feel the heat of the lights on your back, and you're dressed up and you're doing all of this. It was gold dust for me.
And that's kind of like what got you hooked or kind of interested.
Hooked.
Yeah,
definitely hooked. Yeah.
So that was your kind of catalyst for maybe looking into this field further. Were you involved in musicals then before you went down to Sligo? You were involved in a couple of musicals after that, or?
Yeah, I was. A couple of the town musicals, and a few of the ones in the secondary school. I got the lead in... It was called Back to the 80s, was one of the musicals that we did in the secondary school towards the end of my time there. That was really fun. That was really, really fun. Jukebox musical. So lots of 80s songs and a lot of nostalgic jokes that none of us got, but the audience and our parents did when we made them. And then town musicals, growing up, I was involved with quite a few of them. Never big roles, but I love helping out in, in any capacity with that kind of thing. I remember the Addams Family was really, really fun. Joseph's Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat was really fun, and a few other ones. But yeah, musicals is like the main thing that I enjoy. I enjoy other stuff, but musicals is like the real.
That's where you kind of cut your teeth on the whole
exactly
thing. Yeah. And do you sing or play any instrument?
Yeah, I do. I sing. I play the guitar and the ukulele mainly.
Yes.
Yeah. And actually, just thinking of it now, in that show Back to the 80s, I played the ukulele as well. So that's become kind of my main instrument over the guitar in the last couple of years.
And did you learn those instruments growing up younger, or was that something you took on when you were in teenage years or anything?
The first time I played the guitar, I was 7. Oh God, what was it? Yeah, I got a couple of lessons down with Matt Burke in his barbershop. He used to do classes for a few of us. We would sit in a circle and he'd show us chords and old Guns N' Roses songs and things like that. And then we would go to the pub and play for people, and it was fun. I didn't stay with that for terribly long. And then after that, it was a lot of teaching myself. It was a lot of YouTube videos and pausing things to see where people's fingers are on DVDs and figuring it out like that, And the ukulele, I don't actually remember when the first time I got one was, but that I kind of had the basis from guitar, and then I just take 2 strings away and it's a ukulele, So I think that's a really fun instrument. You can do a lot with it.
And then getting back then to Sligo, tell us a bit about your experience in that course in Sligo. What were some of your highlights? It was a 4-year course or
4-year course?
4-year course. Yeah. So maybe give us a few highlights or what you really enjoyed about that course.
Yeah, so the course over there, it covered quite a broad range of subjects, and that's definitely one of the strengths of the course down there. I think in first year, where altogether everybody that enrolls is lumped into one in terms of the subjects and topics that we cover. The actual numbers of the group is split in 2. So we would cover acting, and that covers how to carry yourself on stage. It covers voice, movement, embodying a character, a lot of studying old Russian men. And the other core part of that module is design. So that covers how to make the stage look good, how to make costume, how to do lighting and sound design, and all of those other more technical bits that are just as important to the process as anything else. And I think one of my favorite things about that course is, even though after first year you pick one or the other, after first year I opted for acting, but I still got to learn, what do we do with lights? What do we do with props backstage? How do we prepare for X, Y, and Z? How do we do sound design? And I think that it's a really, really valuable thing for any theatre maker, any drama person in general, to have some knowledge of every domain. If you know what the lighting technician is doing in his booth when you're standing on stage for a tech rehearsal, I should stand here because that's going to help him. We don't need to be waiting around for him to shout across the theater at me to move 3 paces to the left. I know what he's doing, so I'm just going to do it. And that makes everything run better. It makes people like you more. It makes more people hire you. So knowing a bit about everything is a great strength of that course, I think.
And it gives you an appreciation for what's involved in all the different areas too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
really see the work that goes into it. Yeah.
Right. And so after you finished that course, did you then, because you are involved with Enchanted Cree Theatre in Strokestown?
Yeah, I've done quite a bit of work with them.
So did that come as a result of finishing your course and then you kind of worked with them, or how did that come about?
Yeah, that definitely helped. When was the first time I worked with them? I've been doing work for them for so long now that I'm not really sure. But I was definitely very, very lucky that after I finished that course, it wasn't terribly long until I found work. And Enchanted Cree and the director, Anne Marie, were a massive help in that. A lot of the work I've done for them has been seasonal. So Halloween spooky tours around Strokestown House, or being an elf on Christmas and bringing kids along and doing that kind of thing. They also have a musical that they're working on at the moment called In the Midst of Plenty, which I got to see a few years ago, and it is fantastic, really culturally Irish. It's set during the famine, but isn't just dreary and bleak and depressing. It still is mature in how it handles the subject matter, but it's also fun and not a slog to sit through, which you might imagine something about the famine to be. I don't know. So yeah, I was very lucky. Not every theater performer that comes out of a course like that gets work straight away, and it's really depressing to see someone just kind of give up on it after the fact. And I know from my experience now that it's a struggle. It's a struggle sometimes to remember that you love this stuff when you're away from it for so long. And sometimes with these kind of gigs, you get something and you're working for 3 or 4 days, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. You do that, and then a couple of months go by of trying to find something, and it can be difficult to remember that you love doing this stuff. That was a thing one of our lecturers in college used to actually say to us all the time when it was 8 a.m. in the morning and we were doing our like Reiki style warm-ups and kind of spiritual endeavors that we would do. He would say, remember, you love this. And that kind of stuck with me because, yeah, he's right. You'd have to remember that you love it. And with work and that, it can be difficult. But I've been very lucky. I got work with Enchanted Cree. I've got work with a few other smaller theatre companies around the country. I've gotten to travel abroad for acting work, all sorts of things. I am very, very lucky.
And Enchanted Cree Theatre, they're just theatre. They're not. There's no film involved with them at all.
No filming.
Okay,
no.
And that's one thing I'd like to ask: would you like to stick in your lane, or would you like to move into film?
Well, on stage live theatre and musicals in particular is the thing that I love. That's like specifically my passion. But filmmaking and film and on-screen acting, I really like that too. I am absolutely not opposed to doing that. I've shot a few short films myself before. One of them is on show in Unavon, the tourism shop at the moment. We we filmed for a day in King House and down in the dungeons.
The escape.
The escape. Exactly. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. That was one of the most stressful experiences of my entire life.
Really?
Yeah. That was that.
In what way?
Oh God. Well, so that was the first time I had ever been fully in charge of just that many people.
Right.
So Anna Robertson, my mum, we worked on the script together. She got all of the financial stuff and the finagly horrible bits sorted out, hiring hiring a guy with a camera to come in and help us out. Budget wasn't huge. We got a grant. So we had one day to film everything, which, if you don't know, maybe that doesn't sound too crazy. That is absolutely insane. That is crazy.
Stress.
Yeah. Any other theater maker, filmmaker I've told about that experience, when I say a day, their eyes bulge out of their skull, you know? So I prepared and I was like, yeah, I know what order we're going to do everything. I know my plan. I know what we're going to get up to. I have this person here and this person here. We've got our costumes. We've got our locations. And then I showed up and there was 30 people standing around waiting for me to tell them what to do. And the most stress I've ever felt in my entire life.
Isn't that, like, from my perspective, wouldn't that be, in theory, in my head, it should, okay, maybe not if timing wasn't an issue, but it should be less, because you're not on a stage, you have one take. As you said, that's musical theater is your passion.
Yeah.
So you would be used to, like, you have to get it right, you don't have a second chance. Whereas when you're doing a filming over a short film or documentary over one day,
yeah,
you can do as many takes as you like. But obviously with the time constraints, that's where it really pushed.
That was one of the main things.
Okay.
With the filming that day, I was just so conscious of everybody's time. You know, I didn't want to waste people's time. And as the day was going on, at certain points, I really felt like that. And I was getting really, really anxious about it. And I was conscious of, they don't want to see me sprinting around, red in the face, worrying about things. I need to chill out. I need to relax and just think about what I'm doing, so that these people aren't being messed around and they can go home and it's fine. And we figured it out. I did it. And I am so, so grateful for that experience, because now I know exactly what I did wrong, and I can be better. But it's an interesting point what you said about the comparison between live acting on stage and only having a chance to do it once, and film acting where you can repeat over and over. There's definitely a big difference in directing styles between filmmakers and theater makers, and oftentimes filmmakers and theater makers are one and the same, but you know, when they're working on different domains, I guess. Sometimes filmmakers won't do 50 runs with you, so you kind of do have the stress of get it right or I'm going to look bad. But I think the main difference between theater acting and film acting is, on stage you have to be very, very large. You have to have a hell of a lot of energy. You have to emote in big, grand gestures. And a mistake that a lot of people make when they first start doing film acting from theater is they think they have to diminish that energy, and that's not true. With a camera pointed at your face, you definitely do have to be a bit more minute. You have to be a little more subtle. You have to contain, or I guess compress that energy, but that same energy has to be there throughout the entire thing. Film acting is no lower in energy than theater acting, and it's a difficult thing to get the hang of. So yeah, I went on a little bit of a tangent there. But...
No, not at all. What would be your favorite role or performance that you've done to date? Is there anyone that stands out that's like way ahead?
It's actually kind of, well, I guess I have two. The most recent one that really, really sticks out in my head is last summer, the summer before. I'm so bad with time, I'm sorry. But I was in Sligo Musical Society's production of Singing in the Rain. And that was just a brilliant experience. That was such a wonderful time. I was... One of my friends Matthew Whitehead was the lead. One of my best friends, Jaden Genie, was another lead, the like love interest of the main character, and I was the best friend. I was like the number 3, and we we like turned into the characters over the course of that musical. We were always together. We would it was my life for those months that we were rehearsing for it, and we started rehearsing quite early. We were always staying over at each other's places to do extra rehearsals, working on dance. Dance has always been something I've struggled with, but I feel like that musical really, really helped me advance in that aspect. And people say that theater acting definitely has 3 main divisions, I guess, to it. There's the acting side, the singing side, and the dancing side. And if you have an actor that can do all 3 of them really, really well, you got someone good on your hands. I feel like I am an all right actor. I feel like I can sing serviceably, and now I feel like I can dance serviceably too. So I'm getting there.
You're sharp in all tools.
Yeah, exactly. And we had some amazing choreographers in that show too. Melody Urquhart was mostly choreographing for the girls, and Thomas Spratt from Das Academy.
Oh, that's right.
Exactly. He was he did the choreography for everything else pretty much, and he was an amazing help. Like
he's very professional, of what I've heard.
Very professional. Very professional. He's done work all over the world. He is a pro.
Yeah.
So he knew how to teach us. He didn't condescend to us with the moves. He gave us difficult stuff, and if we couldn't do it, then we'd figure something else out. But we were going to try to get it. And I think that's a huge part in how good the show looked and how it moved, that we had these big ensemble moments of really cool, dynamic, interesting dance going on. I didn't expect to like the dance so much, but I really loved it. And the character that I was playing, his name was Cosmo Brown. He was a funny guy. He was like the guy who would like give you straight advice, but in a jokey way, the best friend. He was so much fun to play. So much fun. Just being able to mock and ridicule stuff that's going on a little bit, and then be like hee and run off and tumble and jump around and fall and get hit with a pie in the face or whatever. It really, really fun role to do.
And you mentioned there earlier, Callum, that you spent time abroad with work.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. How did that opportunity come about, and what kind of work were you involved in?
So one thing that I also really, really enjoy with theatre is working with kids. I really, really love working with kids. I think it is some of the most fulfilling work I've ever done. The way that I found out about that gig in Spain was actually because of, I mentioned him earlier, my friend Thomas that I used to live with. He got contacted by a friend of his that he met online playing video games.
As you do.
And he happened to be a filmmaker, but he was getting involved in theatre abroad. He contacted Thomas. Thomas was like, no, I have a new house and I'm working on my driver's test and I have a steady job at the moment. I can't do that. But I know someone who is ready to just leave the country at the drop of a hat. So he called me. And then I got in touch with him. We got talking. Turned out we liked each other. And I quit my job, headed over pretty shortly after that.
Where did you go to?
Valencia in Spain. Right. That's where we were based. So it was just over 6 months over there. Every week at the start of the week. Well, on a Sunday morning, depending on where we were in the country, myself, a female actor, and an assistant who would drive the van, we would load all of our gear and our set and our props and things into into a big van, and we would head out on the Sunday to anywhere across the country. Well, we had a specific place we were going, but there was a huge variety of different places we went to. I feel like I've seen most of the country at this point. We would drive out, go to whatever hotel or room or alleyway they paid for us to stay in, and then we would do shows. So we might have 3-4 shows in a day if it was really bad. We were told 3 and was the comfortable number. 2, if we were lucky, was pretty nice. So we would get up, drive to the venue. It could be a school or a theater or a town hall. Sometimes we did it outdoors. Every kind of play space we did shows in. We would drive out, set up our things, do a show, pack it up, head to the next location, do the same, pack it up, go to the next place, rinse and repeat. And then we would come back and...
How many hours a day was
collapse. We could be up from like 6 until 10 at night. Sometimes it was pretty crazy.
Yeah. And you see the traveling to and from would zap your energy too. Never mind having then to focus and concentrate on.
The assistants driving all of that distance, absolute heroes. I don't know how they did it. And hours and hours of driving sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we would always be based in Valencia, so we would come back after our shows on a Friday, put everything back in, like, there was like a headquarters for the theater company, pack away our things, say goodbye, go home, get our pay. And then we'd have a day to ourselves. We'd have that evening and then like a day. And then the Sunday evening we would go again. Sometimes if we were lucky and we were doing shows in Valencia, we wouldn't have to travel anywhere, so we would get another extra day. But most of the time, very, very long hours, lots of traveling. It was really tough. It was really, really tough, but one of the best experiences of my life, because not only was the work fantastic and working with the kids was amazing, but that city, Valencia, I think one of my favorite places on the planet.
I haven't been there, but I've always heard that it's meant to be a stunning city.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
And would you like then in the future to go abroad again and continue doing some more acting work? Would that be on the horizon?
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, actually. Pretty soon, I was contacted by another theater company, also through my friend Thomas, actually.
He's still playing video games, is he?
Playing the video games, making the connection. Maybe I need to play more. He got in touch with me and was like, hey, Callum, I've got another thing for you here. Would you like to go to Switzerland? So on the 3rd of November until the 14th or maybe 15th, we're not entirely sure, traveling over to a city called Freiburg in Switzerland. And it sounds like doing pretty much the exact same work as I did in Spain, but a bit easier, it sounds like. 2 shows a day. We're always based in the same place. No going to different schools in a single day. I do have to learn French to speak to people over there. It's not a requirement of the job, but I like languages. I like being able to speak to people. The area that we're in, Freiburg, is mostly French speaking, apparently, from my research. So that should be fun.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And Callum, obviously, with the advancement of AI we've seen over the last year, 2 years, what are your views on the role that AI will play in the acting world, or will it play a part in the future?
Yeah, I think people meet that subject with a lot of fear and a lot of apprehension, and I think a lot of that is quite justified. I'm sure that there is some kind of useful application that we can figure out to use for it, but I worry, and I think a lot of other performers, writers, designers worry about mostly like bigger corporations and stuff, replacing facets of their production team in favor of, oh, I just put in a prompt into GPT and it spews out something. In future, I'm sure it will get much, much, much more advanced, and it'll be crazy. And I've listened to fake podcasts before where it sounds as natural as me and you talking to each other right now. So it's only going to get better. And it's scary because an animated film, I don't have to pay any actors. I'll just use these plugins and it'll sound great anyway. I think there's a lot of ethical quandaries about the use of AI, using the voice claims of deceased actors, or we've seen bigger movies using CGI replicas of actors' likenesses, like the Star Wars films have done that.
Was it Will Smith as well, or something? Maybe it's not.
Maybe Carrie Fisher, I think. After the fact, her face was used in one of those. Don't really like that too much myself. I think that's a bit.
Do you think it impacts? Obviously, it does. It impacts creativity across the board.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be other people that maybe will have the opinion that it can also enhance creativity.
Well, yeah.
Where would you stand on that?
I think, yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one. I think that there is definitely some kind of place that can be figured out for this technology, and I think it would be silly to just completely throw it all away and be like, this is evil technology and I don't want to see it. Get rid of it. Scrub it off the face of the earth. It is just that we have to be careful with the implementation of it. I think using a prompt to make an outline of a story, or maybe to give you a pretty description of a scene or something like that, could be a good idea. It's just you don't want it to snowball into taking over your entire script. I want to think that these kind of technologies and stuff are never going to take over human creativity. I don't think they are. But they're going to get damn close, I think, in the next couple of decades or however long it takes.
Yeah, the way I see it is, I think we're going to have to live with it, like we have to live with the internet.
Yeah.
And people, when that came out first, would have been kind of on the same kind of fence, thinking, oh, this is going to change everything.
Yeah.
And then we just learn to live with it.
Right.
To this stage that probably can't live without it.
Right.
To a certain extent.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of strikes, wasn't there?
Yeah.
The Writers Guild or Guild or whatever, they were strike the actors. And I think, what you said there about script writers especially, and, they could be not easily replaced, but AI could come damn close to maybe putting out something that's forms the basis of something that goes into either a movie or a production or whatever. So I think in that instance, it's dangerous because that's a huge, huge field then that could be just wiped.
Yeah. I worry about adverts, small things like a toothbrush advert or something. Someone somewhere has to write for that and direct and cast it and everything like that. And advertisements are steady work for a lot of people. And if a big company that wants to advertise their toothbrushes and their toothpaste could just conjure a little script for their actors to use instead of hiring someone to do it for them, they're going to do that. And then that's that job gone for who knows how many people. I don't know what the toothbrush writer market looks like at the moment, but those people would lose their jobs with that kind of technology around. And I can see it being very present in the future.
What advice would you give to any young people that are interested in pursuing a career in performing arts, Callum, especially maybe those coming from smaller rural towns like Boyle?
Yeah, well, that's a really great angle to come at it from. With small rural towns like this, your local theater makers. They're there. They're around. It can be easy to kind of convince yourself that this place is barren sometimes and there's nothing going on, but theater makers are everywhere, and your local arts festival or town musicals, town shows, plays, things like that are going on. Even if you maybe had to get a bus, go over, watch stuff, participate in things, help out, try and educate yourself about that thing, and you will meet someone. As long as you try to engage with that world, you will meet someone. And also, the single most important thing in this field is just be nice. Just be a nice person, and people will want to work with you. Even if you're not that great. If you are a nice person and people enjoy being around you and people enjoy talking to you, you're easy to work with, you will get work. That's like the number one thing. Just be a nice person. Be open to opportunities that you get. If your best friend calls you at 2 a.m. in the morning saying, hey, I'm sending you to Switzerland, I'm sending you to X, Y, or Z, say yes. Yeah. Do it.
Good advice, yeah. And going forward then, Callum, what's in the pipeline? Are there any long-term aspirations for you, both personally or professionally? Yeah,
well, I really, really would love to go back to Spain at some point. I really, really fell in love with that city that I was living in, and big theatre scene over there. Some very nice theatres in the city itself. You don't have to travel too far to find other really cool spaces. I was quite good at the language. I could get by. I was
going to say, can you speak some Spanish?
Yeah,
you can,
okay. Yeah. I'm getting more rusty now because I don't really have people in person.
Immersion.
Exactly. And that's the best way to learn the language. But I would love to go back. I would love to work in those theaters again. Work with kids again. I really, really love working with kids. Like educational theater that engages kids and gets them up and shows them that theater is cool and engages them in that kind of thing, is just some of the most wonderful work I've ever done. From kids as young as like 1 to 17. I've worked with all ages, all types of kids, everywhere, quiet ones, loud ones, all over. I just love it.
Okay.
I just love it. I would really love to do that again.
And what role does Boyle play in your vision for your future? Do you see yourself staying connected to the town long term?
Yeah, totally. Boyle's always going to be home. You know, this is where everything came from. This is where my passion and my drive for this stuff came from. This is where I've met some amazing people. I'm always going to have a part of me here. And you know, if I turned out to be some big celebrity or something, I'd love to bring stuff back to the town. I'd love to get a hotel up, love to a proper big theater hall. Like we have St. Joseph's Hall, and that's a great space to use, and it has a nice lighting rig, good backstage, good seating and everything like that, but like a proper done up theater that people want to come and see.
Yeah.
I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then last question. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you'd like to mention?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, then we'll just leave it at that. Listen, I really appreciated the conversation, Callum. As I said to you at the start, it's always good to get a younger generation's perspective, especially on stuff like COVID and that. And I wish you the best of luck in your career.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Pleasure. Thanks
you
very much.